and just looking at young kids pleading guilty to minor possession charges, and I said to myself, why are we doing this? We need to fix this. So I brought this forward, and I don't have a bill. I don't have an agenda. My agenda is to let's start talking about this. Consequently, after I did this, all kinds of people came to me and said, we have expertise in such and such a field, and we'd like to present testimony. I've given a list to Senator Steele of those people. I haven't solicited them. They solicited me. Consequently, I have no idea if there are other people here who are in opposition to this, because nobody in opposition to this has called me. So anyway, that's what you're getting from me today. So I put together a PowerPoint that I want to go through very quickly. It's kind of an overview of the different issues that we might consider and what some of the other states have done. For some of you who are practicing attorneys, this may be very basic. For others, it might tell you something. So let's just go into an overview. We have different things that we regulate. And some of the things that we're going to talk about here are our possession of marijuana, growing it, selling it, or giving it away. There's also a group who wants to talk about industrial hemp growing. And there's another group who wants to talk about medical marijuana. So we're going to have people talk about all of those things. The possession laws, we did a review of most of the states. Possession laws generally break down based on amounts, and a very common amount that is a threshold would be 1 ounce. And I gave you a little table here. It's 28.5 grams. And to give you an analogy, because it's the only thing I can think of, because people ask me, is that a shot glass worth? And I tried to tell them, no, liquid ounces are different from weight ounces. So we're talking weight ounces, and to give you an analogy, a pack of cigarettes weighs just over an ounce. State laws break down into amounts less than an ounce, more than an ounce. Some break at 2 or 2.5 ounces, and a lot of the sales laws break down by number of pounds. Several other issues have been brought up in different states that affect possession. There are some states that have no possession for what is done in the privacy of your own house versus what's done in public. Medical possession has become an entirely different issue. And then we've got processed marijuana versus growing live plants. They're usually dealt with differently because processed marijuana is weighed a completely different way. A growing live plant has roots and water and isn't dried, and so the weight is different. We usually don't deal with live plants by weight. Another category of things that have been regulated is paraphernalia. And that's one of those things, kind of like pornography. You can't quite define it, but you know it when you see it. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'm not sure that I'm up to date on all of that. But paraphernalia is also something that is part of what is regulated. Nearly every, criminal sale of marijuana laws generally breaks down into a couple of different categories. Intent to distribute marijuana is a felony in most states. However, it's not always clear what you have to prove to show intent. In some states, there is a presumption that a certain amount of marijuana gets you automatic or presumed intent to sale or intent to sell. The penalties for sale are generally much higher than they are for possession. But again, there doesn't seem to be any coherent plan across the states. Felony can range anywhere from 5 pounds to 2,000 pounds. It doesn't make a lot of sense. There's another question that deals with whether a person who gives some marijuana to a friend is a seller or is a distributor. So that has been legislated in some states. Some states will tell you that giving away some small amount without remuneration is a gift and is not a sale. There are some other issues that may also affect penalties for sellers, including selling to minors, proximity to schools and parks. The penalties, and now right now I'm just talking about possession, the penalties vary, and I'm going to go through this pretty quickly with you guys. I mean, there's a difference between an infraction and a civil penalty. A misdemeanor, most states allow for both a fine and a limited period of jail. And then felonies, and there are a variety of categories of felonies, and I think most of you are attorneys, you don't need me to tell you that. Some states have mandatory minimum sentencing for possession. Some states have mandatory suspended sentences for first-time offenses. Many states will do an automatic bump up of the category of crime if your possession is a second or third offense. Indiana has a misdemeanor, for example, for possession of less than 1 ounce, but felony if it's a second offense. Now, the laws across the country have changed dramatically over the past decade or so, and they've really, really varied. In fact, I think about 30 states have come up with some reformation of their marijuana laws. No state has totally legalized possession of unlimited amounts. Alaska and Maine, or Alaska has legalized small amounts in the house. If you have marijuana and you're in your house and you're not in the public park, there's no charge, not even an infraction. Maine has legalized the usable amount if you get a recommendation by a physician. And I'll talk about that recommendation thing a little bit later. Many states have adopted a no jail system. Adult possession of small amounts is a civil citation only. You can get a fine, but you can't be jailed. Violations by minors are subject to different rules. Many states have a misdemeanor amount, provides for some jail time plus a fine. As I said before, some of the jail sentences are mandatory suspension. Many other states just don't enforce it. And I've given you a little chart here of who has done infractions and what the amounts are and what the fines are. And the next chart will show you misdemeanors by some states. And this is not a complete list. It took us a while to put this together. It may not be quite complete. But you can see the jail time, the fine vary, and the amounts also vary by a lot. Some of the states that, I found this very interesting, some of the states with liberal laws about possession can still carry very large penalties for larger amounts of possession or for sale. And I gave you a couple of examples. 11 pounds in Mississippi can get you 30 years. But in Ohio, you can have 44 pounds and it'll only give you 8 years. So the sentences don't completely make sense, and there's not any national model that we can follow. In some states, there is no felony for simple possession, unless you also show an intent to distribute. And so the next group I give you here, a couple of charts with felony status in several different states. I included this slide here, Indiana drug laws. I'm going to kind of